In the quaint town of Willow Creek, where the sun cast golden hues upon the beautiful landscapes and laughter echoed down the winding streets, there lived a devoted father named Henry and his son, Lucas. Henry was not just any carpenter. He was a craftsman of renown, celebrated for his meticulous craftsmanship and unwavering ethics. His woodwork was not merely functional. It was a blend of artistry and practicality, a reflection of his soul and creativity. From a young age, Lucas looked up to his father. He admired the way Henry transformed raw timber into breathtaking pieces of furniture, each telling its own story. Every evening, father and son would spend hours together in their workshop, a sanctuary filled with a comforting sense of sawdust and varnish, an environment vibrant with colors and possibilities. As they worked side by side, Henry imparted not only skills, but also life lessons. Lessons about integrity, hard work, and the importance of standing tall even in the face of adversity. In those moments, surrounded by tools and creativity, Lucas learned that every cut, every joint, and every polished surface was a labor of love, requiring dedication and attention. Their bond was unbreakable, strengthened by laughter, shared dreams, and the warmth of parental love. Lucas believed that as long as they worked together, they could weather any storm, crafting not only beautiful pieces but lasting memories. However, as Lucas entered his teenage years, a turbulent phase of identity formation began to cloud his judgment and sense of direction. Gradually, he became entangled with a group of boys who thrived on rebellion and daring escapades, boys who were drawn to the thrill of living on the edge and the allure of being seen as cool in the eyes of their peers. The excitement of acceptance began to overshadow the values that his father had instilled in him. The first taste of rebellion came when Lucas and his friends decided to indulge in petty vandalism, spray painting graffiti on the local park benches, giggling as they made their mark. At first, it seemed harmless, but as the weeks progressed, Lucas's misdemeanors escalated into more reckless behaviors. He found himself stealing small items from local stores and feeling an adrenaline rush that he had never experienced before. Each crime was a small act, but they began to pile up, forming a dark cloud over his conscience and moral compass. Henry remained blissfully unaware, continuing to believe that his son was diligently focused on his studies, preparing for a bright future. The workshop was filled with stories of hope and dreams, and while Henry poured his soul into teaching Lucas the family trade, he was unknowingly losing sight of the boy he thought he knew. He never imagined that his son would stray so far from the path of honesty and integrity he had so carefully paved. One fateful night marked a significant turning point in the trajectory of their lives. Lucas and his friends, emboldened by reckless bravado and a false sense of invulnerability, broke into a local convenience store under the cover of darkness. Thrills quickly turned to chaos when the boys inadvertently set off an alarm. Panic gripped them, sending them sprinting away with stolen treats and mischief lurking behind them, their hearts racing with the thrill of the illegality. In the midst of the chaos, Lucas's hands grabbed a rare vintage watch, a family heirloom of remarkable value that had been displayed near the register, shining in the dim light. He felt a surge of excitement, convinced that he could impress his friends with this daring heist. But the fleeting thrill faded quickly, replaced by a gnawing sense of guilt that clung to him like a heavy shroud. What Lucas didn't know was that the store owner was a close friend of Henry's. When the police apprehended the boys shortly after, they quickly began pointing fingers at each other, an instinct for self-preservation kicking in. Terrified of the consequences, Lucas made a decision that would alter the course of their lives forever. He decided to implicate his father, claiming Henry had given him the watch as a gift, hoping to divert attention away from himself and protect his own interests at the expense of his father. Henry's world came crashing down when the police arrived at his workshop in the early morning hours, disrupting the peace he had known for years. Confusion creased his forehead as Detective Collins, a man of integrity and respect within the community, stood before him with a grim expression. "We need to talk about the theft at Thompson's store," he said solemnly. "Lucas mentioned you in connection with it." Henry's heart sank into his stomach, the air around him thick with disbelief. "That's impossible. Lucas would never," he stammered, desperation and confusion etched across his face. The notion that his son could betray him in such a profound way was too much to bear. But the evidence was overwhelming. The vintage watch, engraved with Henry's initials hidden beneath the surface, was found in Lucas's possession. Despite his protests and frantic claims of innocence, Henry was arrested on charges of conspiracy to commit theft. As the handcuffs clicked around his wrists, the betrayal hung thick in the air, heavy with unspoken words and shattered trust. The bond he had cherished with his son now felt irreparably fractured. The trial that followed was a spectacle that shook the very foundations of their once solid relationship and painted their world in shades of betrayal and loss. The courtroom became a stage for the drama unfolding, revealing the deep cracks that had formed between father and son, witnessed by friends, family, and an incredulous community. Henry fought to defend himself, his voice strong yet tinged with an underlying fragility. "I taught my son honesty. He wouldn't conspire to steal," he insisted, his desperation palpable. He locked eyes with Lucas, who sat many rows ahead, emotionless and steeled against the consequences of his actions. The jury listened intently as Lucas, under the weight of peer pressure, took the stand. "My father gave me the watch, knowing I would sell it," he claimed, his voice steady but hollow. His gaze met Henry's, and for a brief moment, shame flickered behind his eyes, but he quickly masked it with a facade of false bravado. The burden of guilt was heavy upon him, but fear overshadowed his morals as he aimed to deflect blame and avoid facing consequences. Henry's heart shattered further as the judge delivered the verdict. "I hereby sentence you to 2 years in prison." The words echoed in the courtroom, resonating like a death knell for their relationship. Henry felt the weight of the world on his shoulders, the implications tearing through him. The realization that his own son had orchestrated this betrayal cut deeper than any prison sentence ever could. During his time in prison, Henry faced an emotional reckoning unlike any he had experienced before. The silence of the concrete walls mirrored the void left in his heart, each day blending into the next as he grappled with the magnitude of his situation. Isolation became both a tormentor and a teacher, forcing him to confront his feelings of betrayal, sorrow, and helplessness. Meanwhile, Lucas thrived in a distorted sense of popularity among his peers. The boy who put his father in jail had become a label imprinted on his identity, garnering attention and admiration from those who reveled in mischief. However, beneath the facade of bravado lingered a deep-seated guilt that haunted him, an indelible mark of his choices. The weight of his actions became unbearable during sleepless nights, where memories of better days spent with Henry replayed vividly in his mind. As months turned into years, Lucas finally began to understand the enormity of his betrayal and the consequences for his actions. He remembered the lessons his father had taught him, the nights spent crafting alongside Henry, and the love they had once shared. The pain of his actions settled heavily on his heart, forcing him to confront the reality that he had lost not just his father to justice, but also the trust and bond that had defined their relationship. Upon his release, Henry returned home to a reality that felt entirely foreign, an estrangement that permeated the air. The workshop, once filled with warmth and creativity, now embodied a relic of the past, haunted by reminders of betrayal and lost opportunities. As he stepped through the door, the stares of the townsfolk felt like daggers, breaking the silence left in the wake of his imprisonment. Lucas, feeling the weight of regret and shame, attempted to reach out after what felt like ages of silence and estrangement. Dad, I'm sorry for what I did. I was being foolish. You have to believe me." His voice was laced with desperation, trembling with the gravity of his heartfelt apology. But words alone could not mend the wounds he had inflicted upon his father. Henry, his expression steeled and voice firm yet tinged with sorrow, replied, "You destroyed our bond, Lucas. You chose a path that betrayed everything I believed we stood for." The hurt in his voice was palpable, thrusting into Lucas's heart like a cold dagger, piercing through the remnants of a relationship that had once thrived on trust and love. Despite the fracture between them, Henry felt the stirrings of resolution within him. He recognized that while betrayal had created a chasm, it didn't have to define them. Determination surged within him, filling his heart with a flickering flicker of hope. He could either dwell in bitterness and resentment or strive to rebuild what had been lost. Summoning all his courage, Henry extended an olive branch to Lucas, a fragile attempt to bridge the chasm between them. "Let's start over," he said, his voice softer now, a mirror of the hope resting within him. "This time, let's work together to rebuild not just our workshop, but our relationship, a path of healing and redemption." Tears formed in Lucas's eyes, spilling over as he processed his father's words. He understood the magnitude of his father's forgiveness and knew it wouldn't come easy. However, deep down, he longed to rectify his mistakes, to reclaim the love and trust he had taken for granted. With newfound motivation and shared purpose, the two began to mend the tattered threads of their relationship, embarking on a journey toward healing and forgiveness. They returned to the workshop, not just as father and son, but as partners determined to restore what had been broken. Each piece of furniture they crafted together served not only a practical purpose, but also became a symbol of their recuperating bond. Each nail pounded into wood resonated with a heartbeat, filled with resilience, understanding, and the drastic importance of love. The journey was neither short nor easy, long and fraught with challenges, one that tested their resolve and strengthened their connection in profound ways. They faced moments of doubt, setbacks that felt insurmountable, and echoes of the past that threatened to overshadow their efforts at every turn. Yet, through every struggle, Henry and Lucas discovered a shared wisdom emerging from the rubble of their betrayal. As they honed their crafting skills, they began to integrate their lives anew, revealing dreams that surpassed their wildest expectations. They worked tirelessly together, creating beautiful woodwork that began to attract attention throughout Willow Creek once more, this time not just for its craftsmanship, but for the story of redemption and resilience that accompanied each piece. In the end, they realized that betrayal, while painful, was also a gateway for growth, understanding, and ultimately, a deeper, more resilient bond built upon forgiveness. It became clear that their love could withstand even the darkest of betrayals, evolving into a force more profound than either had imagined. In the heart of Willow Creek, they emerged not just as father and son in a traditional sense, but as a dynamic duo, inspiring others to believe in the healing power of commitment, the strength of love, and the value of rebuilding what was lost. Their journey became a beacon of hope, a testament that even the deepest wounds could heal with patience, understanding, and unwavering love, igniting new beginnings from the ashes of betrayal.